suppose we'll have a look at your time with Crossmaglen Rangers. I suppose, like, obviously still the most successful senior club, like in terms of the most All-Irelands and county titles. Like, what was it like kind of when you first kind of came into that team, and what's the kind of culture like within I suppose Crossmaglen Rangers in general?
Yeah, to be fair, like I said, going back to sort of me being very young, with Dad being the club manager at that stage, I knew all the players very well. I was in around the trading and changing rooms and that sort of stuff. So everyone would have been familiar with me, and it would have been obviously the ultimate goal. That's all you wanted, was your speed up your underage career till you got up there. So I had come on to the panel in 01, was my first year with them. I like played in a few pitch openings and that there in 2000, but wouldn't have been officially part of the panel until 2001. So like I said, obviously we had won an All-Ireland in 97, 99, 2000, and then you were coming in 01. So it was, I wouldn't say it was a daunting panel, maybe because it's more local at your club, you know everyone, you know the setup. It's different than joining a county panel. But it definitely did. It took me a while to find my feet. Like, I didn't play a championship game. I didn't even get on as a sub. We would have been hockeying teams in 01, 02, and I wouldn't even get on as a sub at that stage. I was just about playing the odd league game whenever our county players were away. So it wasn't until 03 that I actually got my first minute playing championship football for them, and thankfully from then there's been no looking back. But it took a few years to make the step up and adapt to going from underage football to senior. And then obviously, like I'd mentioned previous, I had started out as a forward at underage level, and it was only in 03 that the new manager who'd come in that year, Michael McConville, he decided to move me to wing half back for the start of that club league season. And like I say, it just everything took off from there.
Yeah, I can imagine so. I'd say it probably was fairly daunting coming into that team at first, considering, I suppose, how successful they'd been. Like, and like, would you even put Armagh's success, like some of Armagh's success, down to, I suppose, what Crossmaglen built kind of in that late 90s, early 2000s? Like, they almost kind of laid the foundations in some ways with the likes of Oisin McConville and a few of the other lads as well.
Yeah, I couldn't speak for everyone else within Armagh, and obviously your own local club rivalries and that there. And I suppose the amount of success that we had, it's understandable why those rivalries were there. But I would think it would have had a huge bearing on it, because Armagh teams didn't win All-Irelands. They hardly got the All-Ireland finals, never mind won them. And that Cross team in particular, those boys were going to Croke Park, winning All-Irelands consistently, doing stuff that no Armagh club team had ever done before. And without doubt, the characters of those fellas, like your John and Tony McEntee, Oisin, Paul Herty, Francie Value, they were bringing that belief, obviously, that they had gained from those wins, and not being daunted by any experience into a county level, with a team, in fairness, that had some exceptional individuals and strong leaders and that there. But I would have thought that the winning mentality, and I suppose not the arrogance of them, but the self-belief that they would have had. Like, they didn't have any hang-ups regardless of who they were playing. We had beaten Nafana from Dublin in an All-Ireland final. We had beaten Lawn Rangers in an All-Ireland club semi-final from Kerry, who were reigning All-Ireland champions. We'd beaten your Ballinaz from Mayo. So it didn't matter what county the boys were coming up against from club level, they were capable of beating them. And I would have thought that, yeah, as the years rolled on, that would have definitely fed into the county psyche.
And I suppose, like, being a part of a team that I think won 12 county titles in a row between, I think, 96 and 2008, like, I suppose, where does the motivation kind of come from yourselves to keep going year on year? And I suppose, like, what's that, like, where does that desire come from to, I suppose, keep at it every year?
It just comes from within. I couldn't say, like, there was nothing that really stood out to me that I could tell you this is what was happening every year. There was a massive pressure that come with having to win, and I think that's what kept so many people so focused. There was that big of a fear of losing that it kept us focused. Like no one had ever done, it was 14 in a row, I think it was. So we had done 13 in a row, and no one had ever done 14 in a row, and we fell short that year. Pearshogues beat us, but you do get it thrown at you like, sure, you had it easy in Armagh, and you had no real competition. And to be honest with you, that's something that really bugs me where people say that, because number one, it's disrespectful to the teams that we were competing against in Armagh, because at that time we were coming up against some very good teams, Drummondtee, Pearshogues, Clanagale in the earlier years, that I have no doubt, had they have beaten us and they got on to Ulster campaigns, that they would have given it a rattle. But through the course of it all, like if you look at even the likes of Paul Herty, like he won 19 Armaghs, but he won 11 Ulsters, and then he won 6 All-Ireland. So it wasn't that the competition in Armagh wasn't great. We were beating everyone in Ulster as well, and it was over 1 and 2. We were beating their teams in Ulster. Say my own brother Paul played 7 years for Cross, and till he had to retire with a shoulder injury. But in the 7 years, he won 6 Armaghs and 6 Ulsters. So he never actually lost a game in the Ulster club. But again, you would get it thrown at you up here that you had no competition in Armagh, you just walked it every year. But that was disrespectful to us, and it was disrespectful to the teams we were competing against, because we were then able to go on and back it up at provincial and All-Ireland level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I suppose like when you're successful, I think there's always critics, and there's always kind of people who try and, I suppose, discredit that success in any way they can. I think we see that sometimes with Dublin at the minute, even Corofin at times, and a few other teams. Like I think unfortunately it's kind of just the way society works in many ways, unfortunately. Like, and I suppose winning that Ulster club title in 04 and 06, like, was that the first kind of big step towards winning an All-Ireland, like a club All-Ireland for yourself?
Yeah, it was. Winning the Ulster in 04 was magic. Like it was something again that you just always wanted to do. I had been on the team, like I say, from 01. That was my first Ulster final. We won it, and we ended up losing the All-Ireland semi-final the following year in Parnell Park to Portlaoise. And to be fair, like it was a sickener at the time. It was a game that, we didn't play well. Quite possibly could have won it, but I think it fueled an even greater fire. Just simply for me, I felt it was a complete letdown, because Cross won Armagh, they won Ulster, and they went on to win an All-Ireland. That was the first time we'd ever lost in an All-Ireland semi-final. So personally, it didn't sit well with me, because I felt I was part of a group that, they didn't want that tag. And they say by the time it come our next shot, we'd lost in the first round of Ulster in 05 to Balahi by a point again. And by the time we get the next shot then in 06, we made up for it and went on to become All-Ireland champions.